Hey everyone, Pete Calandra here. Sorry about the goofy hat, but it's a little chilly and want to stay warm. So this is part 2 of the Class 11 review video for my Audio MIDI 2 course that I'm teaching at the Copeland School of Music, Queens College, City University of New York, and this is the fall of 2021 semester. In this half of the class, I go over a couple of things. The first one is creating an alias and saving it on your desktop so that when you're working on a project like a film score, instead of going to your hard drive to open up the folder, to open up a subfolder, to open up another subfolder to get to the session and open it, you can just simply click on an alias on your desktop and you're right there. So that's just a time-saving technique that I use when I'm working on a long-term project like this film I'm scoring now. And then the second part of this class, I get into some detailed work on taking the demo suite that I wrote, and that's on a previous video that I put for my film scoring class, and taking that demo suite and extracting all that information and creating a template with all my routing and everything preset, and having all of the plugins and instruments deactivated so that it opens up quickly. And then how I use that template to extract information to create cues from the different parts of the demo suite. And then I talk about creating stems and mixing from the stems, and then creating alternate mixes of each of these cues to give the filmmakers some added flexibility. Then there's also a little bit of discussion about automating your plugins in Pro Tools. And again, I work in Pro Tools. These concepts and techniques, they're all applicable to any DAW, whether it's Cubase, Logic, Digital Performer, Ableton. They all have very similar ways of working. It's just that you have to extract the ideas and figure out how to transfer them into your DAW. Anyway, if you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Please leave any comments or questions down below. Thanks so much, and let's get right into it. For the next hour or so, we're going to go over a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of stuff planned, stuff that I don't typically teach to any of my classes. It would be something like if I taught Audio MIDI 3, it would be part of that. But because I've got these 4 or 5 extra classes, I'm going to be throwing in some advanced stuff that hopefully you can make use of. All right. So let me open up. So I'm working on right now a film score, right? So what I'm doing is I'm creating a bunch of tracks, and the way I've got it set up is I've got my project drive here where I've got all my projects, right? And if I do it alphabetical order, I've got everything, organized. So this is the master folder for the project I'm working on now, right? Well, the first thing is that if I want to access that, right, I have to open up this, I have to navigate here, and then I have to navigate here. And then I have to navigate here, right? Or to whatever folder, subfolder I'm looking for. What you can do is you can create an alias and drag that to your desktop, and then access it from your desktop. And then when you're done with the project, just throw out the alias. So how do you create an alias? Well, I've got an alias right here. So let me delete the alias, the alii. I guess that's the plural of alias, alii. Let me delete them. They don't delete the project folder. So if I right-click on this, make alias, it needs like a pink wig. That was a television show like 20 years ago where the protagonist, so you can get rid of that and just to make a master folder, and then just drag that to your desktop, right? And then you've got your master folder, and you know that it's an alias folder because it's got that little arrow on the bottom left-hand corner. And then now, since this is my main focus right now, I click there and boom, I'm right there. So what I'm trying to get at here is that time, save time by having a good drummer. We had this, I had this, this comment when I used to play on Broadway, and we'd have a particularly rough night because we'd have a bad combination of subs. We had a lot of subs who were fantastic, tremendous, like, you know, incredible musicians, and they were well prepared. But every once in a while, you get people that weren't quite so good, or they were good players who weren't prepared, or they were having an off night, and the time would be all over the place. And I used to just say so many clocks, so little time. Anyway, that's a inside joke. But the way it relates here is when I've got repetitive things that I have to do every day, the faster I can get through them. If I'm working on this project for 6 or 7 weeks or 2 months, and I save 10 minutes a day by not having to rummage through folders like a hard drive to a cell folder, to a subfolder, to another subfolder, right? That adds up to several hours over the course of time. And that's several hours I can be creating. And the other thing is the flow. When I'm writing, I want to be in a flow. I don't want to be thinking, oh, where is that? Oh, I have to navigate here. I have to navigate there. I have to navigate to this folder. And then right? No, just click right. It's right there. And then when I'm done, I can just throw that alias out and be done with it. But it's on my desktop from when I'm working. And it's a quick way to access your projects if you've got a long-term project that you're working on that's got a lot of data. And as you can see here, I've got a lot of folders. Give me 1 second to have my beverage. I'm getting a little dry throat. So those of you that have taken film scoring class, you've heard some of this because I talked about creating a demo suite, but I'm going to take it a little bit further, right? So I've got a demo suite here, and it's got lots of files. So this is the last demo suite. All right, give me 1 sec. This is going to take a second to load in because it's got, you know, a lot of data. And then while I'm at it, let me quit some of these other things that I don't need here. Okay, so this will take a second to open up, and you'll probably lose me for a second. So I've got this template. I've got this demo suite. So what I'm going to show you is how I've been working on this project and how I've been able to crank out between 2 and 4 minutes of music every day for the past, 8 days. So this will take a second to load in because it's a huge session. Huge, ginormous. So what a demo suite is my vision for what the score should be based upon conversations I've had with the filmmakers and my own research and my own aesthetic. And it contains ideas. Sweet. I don't make the ideas super detailed. I give you a sense of what they are, and then I will extract. And the way I worked was I got a brief, which was an outline of the film written as an outline. And I basically followed along the outline and just, wrote bits for what the descriptions were. When I got to the third or fourth act, I didn't go through every bit because some of the music I had previously written would work with some variation in those spots. So I saved myself some time and some repetitiveness, and the demo suite was getting to be 8-9 minutes long, which for a 1 hour film is a bit much. So this is the demo suite, and it's not what I've taught you guys as far as mixing goes, right? Excuse me. I don't have, if I zoom in on this, right, you can see I've got everything organized where things are supposed to be ordered. They're all color coded, but there's no VCA masters, right? There are no subgroups, aux tracks, right? I don't have a music track. I've got a music VCA. I do have a music track, right? But I don't have like aux tracks. I don't have like a lot of stuff set up. So once I played this for the filmmakers, and I'll just play a little bit of it to give you guys a taste. Okay, so that's about 2 minutes of that, and it goes on. There's a bunch of different kinds of music. Not everything's always that in-your-face sports music. There's, you know, quiet music. There's right. There's all different kinds of music, but they're all like bits. They're not developed and fleshed out. They're, you know, basically like a big blob of clay thrown on a wheel that's got a couple of little things that you can see. Oh yeah, that's a handle. That's a spout. You know, for if you're going to be creating a water vase or something like that. So what I did was I saved this as a new copy, and I called it for extraction, right? And let me show you what I did with that. So let me close this. I do not want to save this. Now remember how long it took that last one to open, right? That's because everything is active. Watch how quickly this one opens. Right? Like 10 seconds. The other one took like 5 minutes to load in. And that's because I've made everything inactive. Now let me show you how that works. So you could see that they're grayed out, and everything is italicized, all the names here, and all this stuff is gray. Right? So I'm going to make these active. And then it loads the stuff right in. So what I can do is, you can do it from here. You can right click on any selected track and make it inactive. Or you can do the same thing from the tracks list. So notice I clicked on that and stylus becomes highlighted. And also this is a great way using the tracks list. This is going to be hard for you guys to see over the computer, but I can just tell you that when I'm looking at the names here, when I've got a session that's this big, so this is, right, this is 129 tracks. 129 tracks. What is this here? I don't know what that is. But this black text on white, see that? That's big strings low. I can read that and then it becomes highlighted. So if I wanted to make that active, I could right click on that and just make it active. And it's active now. If I wanted to make it inactive, I would just make it inactive. And then one other thing I wanted to go on, this is tangential, but this is a good lesson here. You notice that in the tracks list, you've got these hieroglyphics in this column, right? So, well, these three columns. If there's a dot here, that means that it's visible. So let's do this here, right? So you see that this big strings low is living here. If I click on this with this dot, that disappears. You could see right here, it tells you what color it is. This tells you what kind of a track it is. This little orange with the keyboard, that is a instrument track. This little thing that looks like two faders, that's a VCA track. Little waveform here, right? That's an audio track. Right here, I don't know if you could see this, but this has a little downward facing arrow. That's an aux track. This sideways M on this track, that's a master track. And then there's one track, a couple of tracks, but if I did a MIDI track, which we haven't talked a lot about, right? That's got a little DIN plug, which is like a MIDI cable plug. So that's how you could tell. And then I can, if I want to just delete that. Oops, I got to scroll out again. Let me delete that. So that's one thing I wanted to go over quickly. Is just that you can look here and get the information as to whether something is visible or invisible, whether something is active or inactive, by whether this is italicized, the color of the track, and the type of track. So if you've got what you think is an aux track up and it's not working, double check here first to make sure it's not an audio track. It's a downward facing arrow. That's an aux. That's the hieroglyphic for an aux track. Okay, so I've got this template here, right? Great. I could save this as a template, but I chose not to do that. And this has all my routings. It's got all of my VCA masters. It's got all my groups over here. Everything's all set up, and I've got this set up for all my stems to be made. I've got plugins, right? So that every cue has the same plugin chain. And that's important for keeping consistency in a film score. And then I've got my master here. And what I'm going to do here actually is I want to turn my mastering chain, make it inactive, right? So you realize that's another thing too. This is more advanced. If I right click on this plugin, I can bypass it, but that still uses up processing power. Or I could make it inactive and then there's no processing power. And then I can just make it active again when I want to use it. So the other thing too is if you've got a master track, like a music track with all these plugins, it's going to mess up the timing of stuff. So, and that's the same with the kick drum here. I should make some of these inactive. I easily update this. I've been updating this as I've been working. So, right. So for example, I like this chain on the bass right here, right? You don't have this plugin. This is something from Waves, and I've got this plugin. This is UA, and then this is another Waves plugin that's a multi-band compressor. But for the score, this works out really well for the bass instruments. So what I did was I right-clicked here, and I saved it as a track preset. And when you save something as a track preset, this comes up, and this is very helpful. And then you can scroll here, and I added a category, right? And I've got PC presets, Pete presets, and I've got Tamika. So this one I just started adding, and I made a few that are in this PC preset. So I saved this, right? And it's got tags and all this stuff. And then you can select what kind of track data to recall, and this is very advanced. So let's not worry about this right now. Yeah, this is very advanced. I just leave everything on. Okay, so I would click OK, and then if I wanted to recall that, I could click here, right-click, and I could recall and just navigate to PC presets and Tamika Bass Master. And then let's do this. I'm going to take everything out of here. No insert, no insert, no insert, and I'm going to change the input to no input, right? And then it'll even set my input up. So if I right-click on here and recall track preset, Tamika Bass Master, voila, all my plugins and my input routing. Okay? And somehow it changed. I must have saved the colors differently on that. So that's another thing that you have to be careful about. Okay. And let me make this solo saved and input monitoring and save this. Okay, great. So I want to work on a section of this film. Paul, if you're using a Mac to zoom in, like, yeah, it works really well, right, Caitlin? It's really easy. It's very helpful.
Yeah, when I'm showing them how to do stuff on Logic, and on the projector, I zoom in on the specific key commands I want them to do.
Yep.
So it helps.
Yep. Oh, these genius bar people, they know how to program all this stuff that helps us all out. You just got to remember how to look for everything and how everything works. It's like more stuff every week. All right, so I want to do a new cue. So my last cue that I did was M9. So I'm going to do a new cue, and I'm going to go Tamika M10 11 11-21 and my initials, right? And I'm making sure that I'm at 48 kilohertz, and it's going to prompt me for location and Tamika library, and you could see that I've got everything set up here. And I'm going to get rid of the click track because I'm going to import the click track from the other one. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to import session data. All right, so I'm going to go to File, Import, Session Data. And then I'm going to go to Template Extraction. That's the one that I used. I'm going to open this. I'm going to select all these tracks, hold the Shift key down and click on the bottom one, right? They're all selected. And there's another function too. You can match tracks. You can do all sorts of stuff with this. Let's just start with this basic one because this is advanced as it is. And then I want to import the tempo and meter map and markers and memory locations. And if there's any audio media options, I want to make sure that it's copied from the source media, right? Remember, you want to copy so that it gets into the right folder inside of the session folder for this particular project. And click OK. And then boom, right? I got everything right in there. So let's say I want to work on this section right here, and I want to develop this into a longer cue, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of everything before that. Let me show you. So I've got my grid set to quarter notes, and I'm going to select everything. So you go to here to groups, you click on all, and then you click on the little dot over there so that, and see how everything becomes selected. Let me zoom in on that. It's at the top of your groups list. All, and make sure this dot is selected. You notice that everything is highlighted. So I want, right from here, measure 86 beats per minute. So I want to just click and make sure that you're getting the rulers as well as all this stuff. And I'm going to go all the way back to measure 1, right? I want that new section to start at measure 1. So I'm going to use shuffle mode, right? We've done that with audio editing. You can do that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click shuffle mode, and all this stuff that's on the rulers, all these markers, everything's going to get erased, and all of this stuff that's to the right of the selected area is going to snap to measure 1. See, and there we are. And I'm almost ready to work. Okay? Now, this is big. It's hard to deal with, so I don't need all anymore. So let me click on that, and then option click on any name here, and everything is unselected. This is huge. It's big to deal with. I know that I'm not going to need some of these tracks. So let me zoom in here. Okay. So this is a different cue over here. So I could actually also get rid of everything afterwards, but let me just let me do that. I want to work on this little section here and develop that. So let me take everything afterwards and also delete that. I'm just holding the shift key down and clicking up in that ruler area. Just get rid of everything. And I don't need that either. Okay, great. And then make sure that all isn't selected, and then now I can just fit everything in. Okay, so right now I've got all of these things right here. There's nothing in this area here, so I can hide that. I don't need to see that. Right? I've got all of these things here. There's nothing there. I can hide that. Right-clicking, selecting and right-clicking. I don't have any symbol roles, so I can select, hold down the shift key, select these 2 tracks, and hide them. Right? Yeah, there's nothing there, so I can hide these. Now, so that's one way of going about it. Now let me show you another way of going about it. So there's something on the tubular bell right here. Okay, so I right-click and make this active. And let's go back to the top. So there's something on the drums. Make that active. Make this active. There's something here, right? Just making all the tracks that have data on them active. So I'm showing you 2 ways of going about the same process, right? The more ways you know about the more methods that you know to go through something, the more creative you can be, right? There's more than one way to solve a problem. I've got the tracks active that have MIDI information, right? But there's still a lot of tracks here, even with the ones I've hidden. So what I can do is I can go up to here in the tracks area. Let me make this and pull this down to the middle here and zoom in. And you see the little downward facing arrow, a triangle. You can click on this and you can go to hide. and you can hide inactive tracks. Right? And all those tracks got hidden. And that's a much more manageable session. And if I want to get any of this other stuff in, it's over here. I could just make it active and visible. So I can now, and so now I can use this as a basis to create like a complete 2-minute composition or something like that. And you know, it takes a few minutes to set up, but once this is set up, I don't have to think about it. I can just go to work. And so that's one thing. Now let me save this and close this out. And let me open up the one I did today, and let me show you a few things that will be relevant to your final. So I worked on this track today. I did the same process that I just showed you to set it up. And then I worked in MIDI for a while. And then once I got the thing sounding good in MIDI, I rendered everything as audio. And then I finished everything in audio, and I actually worked on changing the arrangement around with the audio tracks without dealing with the MIDI, because everything is MIDI. This whole score is MIDI. There's no live players on it at all. That's just the nature of this particular thing. But there's things I can do with audio quicker than what I can do with MIDI. So, right, I've got this track and it's all finished. I imported it, and then you'll notice down here there are all these audio tracks. These are stems, right? And we've gone over stems, and so they're color coordinated. The stems are color coordinated with them in themselves. Actually, I got to change the color on these because they are just like the tracks above it. There we go. These blue tracks go to one of these. Each one of the colors up here go to a different track down here. So let me play you this bit, and then I'll talk about what I did. Right, I rendered everything as audio. These are all audio tracks. I didn't have AUX tracks. That's not what I teach you guys. I want you to get with AUX tracks, but the way I work on films is I need to create stems very quickly. So what I do is, instead of making AUX tracks that my groups are routed into, I make audio tracks, and then I record enable all of them, and then I input monitoring enable. That's this green eye, and then I solo save them. Right. So I'll teach you that later. Let's just assume that I made these all into audio stems the way that I asked I would get you guys to do it. Right. So, all right. So this is basically similar to what we just heard. Okay, so that's the mix that I'm going with this piece. So let me just show you a couple of things I did in audio. Right here, you notice there's this blank space. Well, I wanted, when I heard it played back, I thought this next bit is coming in too quickly. I could use a bigger space. So I just separated all that out and slid it back 2 more beats, and it worked really well. Boom, that's where it came in before, but now it comes in 2 beats later, and that change of feel isn't quite as jarring. So I did that, and I did a similar thing right here. And that required me sliding a few things, like there's a little sound design thing I do here. Right, when I cut this off, this ended up being over here, so I just slid everything over with the trimmer tool to fill in the gap, and I did the same thing here so that there wasn't a hard break, you know, so you've got that sort of ethereal. Oh, that's soloed, excuse me. Now, one thing I do here that I don't recommend you guys do, but I'm doing it, there's a purpose why I'm doing it. I'm going to eventually want to print these stems with all the effects on them once everything gets approved, and I want to archive this. And instead of having 20 reverb sends, I've actually plugged the reverb and delays directly into the track and used the mix control to change it. And this way I have consistency, because this is it's in the template, and it's every track will have that. And it just makes things easier in the long haul. Now, talk about creative use of delay, right? So let's listen to the keyboards. So let me turn off the delay. So this is the part. And then I've added delay, dotted 8th note. I've done a low pass filter, right? I played around with these. You can do the same thing in the mod delay. It's very similar to this. It's just that I'm used to using this one. And I'm adding sort of an etherealness because the echo's wobbling in pitch a little bit, and it's darker than the piano. So that's one thing. The other thing I did was that I took the kit, which is this bit here, and I separated out. I recorded everything in one track, and what I did was I duplicated the track, which gave it all its routing and color, and I renamed it kick. And on this track, I kept the kick drum, right? And on this track, I got rid of the kick drum. And it was pretty easy to do because the kick drum is the same pitch. So I just went over to the keyboard. So, and let's say I wanted to get rid of this note here, right? I could just click here, that's highlighted, and I could just delete it. Or I could just, right? So I just got rid of the kick in this one. And then on this track, I only kept the kick, which are these 2 pitches. And then I routed the kick to its own audio track so that I could control the kick drum a little bit more down here, right? So I've got just the kick drum now, and that literally took me 2 minutes to do. And then I've got the higher part of the kit up here. I didn't do that in the demo suite because I didn't need to, right? That's not going to see the light of day anywhere. This, I want to have a little bit more control over the kick, so I just you know, I just just separate that out. It takes 2 minutes and I've got it, you know. Now, the next thing I need to do is I made multiple mixes for them, and I just copied the audio, all the audio, and just duplicated it over here. So I've got a lighter mix here, right? So there's no big drums here. No, like, or there's no effects, like, so right here. Like, there's no big horn. That big thing, that's not in there. The brass, the cymbals are all muted. You can see they're gray. All the melodic stuff, high strings are all muted. And then I did a full mix here with a soft ending because the first one has a button at the end. So I did one without the button. No pop, right? Then I did this mix here, which is just the vamp. Right, and that just goes on. And then I did sort of like a hypnotic groove here. And this is where I want to show you a couple things. Wait, hold on a second. Am I having a brain freeze here? Oh. Okay, right. Okay, so let's take a listen to something here. Right, you see that? You see how that moved? I think I mentioned this once before. Right, and then with the, I did this in MIDI, and where's my brass, my bass? Give me one sec. Okay, so with the synth bass, right? Let's go back a little bit. You can hear a couple things I did. Watch this here. See how that's moving? Listen to the timbre. Right, and then I also additionally, with the bass, and I did this in MIDI. Right, so this is reverb here, right? And as we can listen, we're going to see this move as the sound gets darker. I'm adding reverb to it. So how do you do that? And I'm going to go over this again, right? But let's start. How do you do that? let's do this for the drum kit here. Let's solo this. Oh, actually, okay, let's solo the keyboard. All right. So we've got this delay, right? Now all the plugins have this. If you look right next to the bypass, it's got something called auto right here, and then there's a little double box right here. Plugin automation enable. So you just pop on that, and it gives you a list of all the things that you can automate in that particular plugin. So let's say I want to take the mix, and I'll add the mix. Right? It gives you all of the different plugins that are on that track, which is kind of cool. So you can do everything in one. If I wanted to automate the EQ, I could do that, and the C4, I could do that, and the reverb, I could do that. But I just want to do the H delay, the mix. Okay? Then what you'll notice is if you go here to the track view selector and you click on that, you've got at the bottom FXC, H delay, mix. And if you select that, a new lane will come up, right? And then I can automate the mix with the pencil tool or with the grabber tool. And let's say I wanted this to start off dry and get wet, right? I can just do something like that. And then we'll watch this, and you'll notice that this has a red circle around it now. That lets you know that it's being automated. And you can see this is moving. Right? And then let's say I wanted to automate the low pass filter. I could add that in and go here, and you'll see, oop, there's the low pass filter, right? So what if I want the delay, the wetter it got, to get darker? Well, I could automate this so that, oh, wrong way. Right, so the delay starts off bright, and as it gets wetter, the delay gets darker. It doesn't affect the dry sound, just the delay sound. But notice this is getting darker as this is getting wetter. Right? So there's this type of stuff can do incredible amounts of can add incredible amounts of animation and sonic interest to your music, right? And it's not that difficult to do. So this was a little primer into this. I'm going to go into this more detail than I normally do, and it's part of these extra lessons that that I have to teach. I can get more detail into this stuff.